All right. So we're going to be looking at this Langroid thing you sent over,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of like GitHub repos and documentation, even some example code. It seems like we're really going to get into the nitty gritty here.
Yeah, for sure. This one, it's pretty cool.
What are we hoping to get out of all this material?
Yeah, I think Langroid is really interesting because it's not just another framework that is sort of jumping on the LLM bandwagon.
Hmm.
It's really a new way of thinking about how to build applications with LLMs.
Okay.
So the idea is instead of having like one giant LLM that you try to get to do everything,
Yeah.
you have all of these different AI agents and they each have like their own specializations.
Okay, like a team.
Yeah, like a team or a committee or something like
So
that.
instead of like this one massive AI brain, we're
Yeah.
going with a more kind of like modular approach.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that turns out to be a really powerful way to think about things.
I can see how that would be really useful.
Yeah.
But like, how does that actually work?
Yeah, so at a basic level, it's an open source Python framework. So it lets developers define these agents, and under the hood, they're essentially wrappers around LLMs.
Okay.
But the cool thing is that you can take those LLMs and you can give them access to all sorts of other things,
Like what?
like vector stores, so they can access knowledge and retrieve information.
Okay.
You can give them access to external tools, so they can like search the web or run code.
Wow.
You can even build in functions that they can execute.
So they're like little AI specialists with access to like a whole toolkit?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's really neat.
And that makes them super versatile.
Okay, so that makes sense. But how do you keep all of these agents? I mean, if you've got like all of these specialists, how do you keep them from kind of running around like chickens with their heads cut off?
Yeah, that's where the concept of tasks comes in.
Okay.
So in Langroid, you define these tasks for the agents, and a task is kind of like an instruction or a role.
Okay.
So you might say something like, Agent A, I want you to summarize this document, and Agent B, I want you to go fact check the summary using Google search or something.
Oh, so you can actually have them interact with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
got it.
and you can even set up these hierarchies of tasks where you can delegate
Oh, that's interesting.
subtasks to different agents.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this fits together.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that Langroid is different from some of the other frameworks that are out there.
Uh-huh.
What makes it stand out?
I think one of the biggest advantages is its modularity.
Okay.
So let's say you built this application and now you realize, oh, I really need to add in a fact-checking agent.
Right.
Well, because everything is so modular in Langroid, you can just plug in a pre-built fact-checking agent without having to like restructure your whole code base.
So it's kind of like plug and play in a way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's really cool.
The other thing is it's very flexible in terms of LLM support.
Okay.
So you're not locked into just using OpenAI models.
Right.
You can connect it to all sorts of different LLMs,
Gotcha.
including ones that you're running locally.
So if you're worried about like data privacy or you have specific, LLMs that you prefer to work with,
Yeah.
you have options.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really important these days as the LLM landscape is changing so rapidly.
Yeah,
You want to be able to adapt.
absolutely. What other kind of tricks does Langroid have up its sleeve?
So another cool thing is caching for efficiency.
Okay.
So it can store LLM responses using Redis or Memento, for example,
Okay.
which can really speed things up.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you're not constantly regenerating the same outputs over and over again.
Right.
And then there's also this idea of grounding.
Grounding.
Yeah, which means that the agents can actually cite their sources.
What do you mean?
So if you ask an agent a question and it pulls an answer from, say, a document that you've given it,
Okay.
it can tell you exactly where in the document it got that information.
So it's all about transparency, like
Yeah.
knowing where the information's coming from,
Exactly.
which is really important with AI,
Yeah, especially as these systems become more complex.
Right, right. The more we can understand, how they're working and where the information's coming from, the more trust we can build.
Absolutely.
So this all sounds really good in theory, but are there companies out there that are actually using this in the real world?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like real companies using
Yeah, there's this company called Nullify that's actually using Langroid in production
Wow.
for secure software development.
Okay.
So they're using it to automate things like vulnerability detection and resolution.
So AI that can actually like find and fix security holes in code?
Yeah, which is pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, that's a game changer.
Yeah, it has the potential to completely transform how we develop software.
Okay, so we're not just talking about like a research project here. This is actually like a real tool that real companies are using.
Yeah, it's already being used.
That's really impressive.
Hmm.
But I can't help but wonder, if you've got AI that's this good at finding vulnerabilities, wouldn't that also make it easier for someone with bad intentions
Yeah.
to exploit those vulnerabilities.
Right. That's a really good point, and it highlights the importance of security when
Yeah.
you're implementing these kinds of systems. So
Mhm.
you really need to think about security at every level,
Yeah.
from access controls to encryption to monitoring and patching.
So it's a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Exactly.
It all comes down to how it's developed and deployed.
Yeah, responsible AI is really important.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got a good handle on like the basics here, like what Langroid is and how it works,
Yeah.
some of its advantages, but where do we go from here? What else is there to explore?
Well, we've only scratched the surface.
Okay.
Langroid has this whole arsenal of specialized agents
Okay.
for tackling all sorts of different tasks.
Like what?
And I think two of the most interesting ones
Yeah.
are the dot chat agent and the table chat agent.
Those sound interesting, especially for
Mhm.
like efficient information consumption, which, is kind of my thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
let's
Yeah.
dive into those.
All right. So let's start with the dot chat agent.
Okay.
Imagine you have like mountains of documents, like
Hmm.
reports, articles, research papers,
Okay.
and you need to find specific information or answer some really complex questions.
Right.
So instead of spending hours and hours sifting through all of that manually,
Yeah.
you can use the dot chat agent, and it's basically like your AI research assistant.
Okay, that sounds amazing. But I mean, we've got search engines for that, right?
Right. But this is way more powerful than just like simple keyword search.
Okay.
It uses this technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
RAG.
Yeah, RAG.
Okay.
And it combines LLMs with vector databases.
Okay, I'm not familiar with vector databases.
So basically what it does is it takes all of those documents,
Mhm.
breaks them down, and converts them into these things called vector representations.
Okay.
And these vectors, they capture the meaning of the text.
So it's not just matching words, it's actually understanding the concepts.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then all of those vectors are stored in a database
Okay.
that allows for super fast similarity search.
I see.
So when you ask a question,
Mm-hmm.
it can scan through their entire collection of documents, identify the most relevant chunks, and then use its LLM to give you a really comprehensive answer.
So it can actually synthesize information from multiple sources
Yeah,
and pull it all together.
exactly. And get this, it can even cite the specific sources.
Oh, wow. So it's not just giving you an answer, it's showing its work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really impressive.
It's all about transparency and traceability.
What types of documents can it handle?
So it's not just limited to text files.
Okay.
It can handle web pages, too.
So you could to have it analyze like an entire website
Yeah.
or a collection of articles
Yeah, anything you can point it to.
and then get like a synthesized understanding of all that content. Think about the time savings for like researchers and analysts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this could be a game changer for so many different fields.
This would be huge for my work. I mean, I go through tons of research papers and reports.
Yeah.
Being able to get like a quick, accurate summary with source citations would be invaluable.
It would save you so much time.
Absolutely. And I mean, think about the applications for businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could use this to analyze customer feedback,
Mm-hmm.
market research reports,
Competitor data.
competitor data. Yeah. There's so much you could do with this.
I mean, the insights you could gain would be incredible.
Okay, I'm sold on the dot chat agent.
Right?
What about this table chat agent? What kind of magic does that one bring to the table?
Pun intended.
Maybe.
So the table chat agent is all about structured data.
Okay.
Think spreadsheets, databases, that sort of thing.
Right.
You know how sometimes you're wrestling with a giant spreadsheet,
Oh, yeah.
trying to find some specific piece of data or do some calculations?
Ugh, don't remind me. I've lost whole afternoons to that.
Yeah, we've all been there. But the table chat agent aims to make that a thing of the past.
Okay, how so?
So instead of writing like complicated formulas or queries,
Mm-hmm.
you can just ask the agent questions in plain English.
Hold on. You're telling me I can just talk to a spreadsheet?
Well, not exactly talk to it, but you can ask it questions like you would a human analyst.
Is it actually like understanding the data in the same way that a human would?
It's not about understanding in the human sense,
Okay.
but it's using these LLMs and a technique called code generation.
Okay.
So when you ask it a question,
Mm-hmm.
it actually generates code, usually Python code,
Wow.
that can be executed to get the answer you need.
So it's translating my words into code.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's incredible.
And because it's generating code, it can do more than just retrieve data.
Like what?
It can calculate aggregates, filter data based on specific criteria.
Okay.
It can even generate charts and graphs for visualization.
Oh, wow, that's next level.
Yeah, it can really streamline your data analysis workflow.
I can see how this would be useful for anyone who deals with data.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, from financial analysts to scientists to, really anyone.
Yeah, anyone who works with data on a regular basis.
This is really powerful stuff.
It is, and this is just the beginning.
Okay.
As LLM technology keeps advancing, these agents are only going to become more capable and sophisticated.
So what's next for Langroid and these AI agents?
Well, there are a lot of exciting possibilities on the horizon. Well, one of the things the notes mention is these rewind tools.
Rewind tools.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I don't think I've heard of those before.
So the idea is you give these AI agents the ability to essentially backtrack and analyze their decisions and potentially even correct mistakes.
Oh, so like an undo button for AI.
Exactly.
That's really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
so they're not just blindly executing tasks. They can actually like learn from their experiences and improve over time.
Right, and that's a big step towards
Yeah.
having these AI agents that can operate more autonomously, where they can learn and adapt without constant human intervention.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
But it also makes me think about like, the control aspect.
Right.
If they can rewrite their own history, how do we make sure that they're still, aligned with our goals and our values?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
As AI gets more sophisticated,
Yeah.
we need to develop these robust mechanisms for monitoring, controlling,
Right.
and potentially even re-educating these agents
It's almost like if
about behavior.
we're entering this new era of like AI parenting,
Yeah.
where we're not just building these agents, we're actually raising them.
I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's a constant process of like guidance and education and, sometimes course correction.
It is.
But the potential rewards could be incredible.
That could be huge.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Well, I mean, we've touched on some specific
Yeah.
use cases, but what's the big picture here? How could Langroid really change things?
So the potential is really vast. This could have a transformative impact on everything from scientific research to education to creative industries, even governance.
Okay, now you're getting me excited.
Yeah.
Break that down for me. Let's start with like scientific research. How could Langroid make a difference there?
So imagine you have these AI agents that can analyze massive data sets, identify patterns that would take human researchers years to uncover.
Wow.
Or imagine agents that can collaborate with scientists to design new experiments, test hypotheses, even generate novel solutions to complex problems.
So it's not about replacing scientists, it's about augmenting their abilities
Exactly.
and like speeding up the research process.
Yeah, it's about collaboration.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
What about education?
So in education, you could have AI tutors that can tailor their teaching style to each individual student's needs.
That's amazing.
You could have virtual classrooms that can simulate real-world environments.
Wow.
Provide these immersive and engaging learning experiences.
So it's all about making education more personalized, accessible.
Yeah, and more effective.
Yeah, I'm seeing a theme here. It's about like humans and AI working together
Yeah,
to achieve things that neither could do alone.
absolutely.
That's a really powerful vision.
It is, and it goes beyond just like practical applications too.
Oh, got it.
Like imagine AI agents that can collaborate with artists and writers and musicians
Okay.
to create new forms of art and expression.
Wow.
Or agents that can help us design more sustainable cities or develop new medical treatments.
I mean, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It feels like we're on the cusp of like a new renaissance, but this time it's powered by AI.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it.
But with all of this amazing potential
Yeah.
comes a lot of responsibility, right?
Absolutely. We can't forget about the ethical implications of all of this.
Right.
We need to make sure that these technologies are developed and used in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Yeah, we need to be having those conversations about bias and transparency and control,
We do.
and we need to make sure that the benefits are shared widely and equitably.
It's a huge challenge.
Yeah, it is, but it's also an incredible opportunity.
Yeah,
I mean, we really have a chance to shape the future of AI,
we do.
to guide its development in a way that leads to, a more just and equitable and prosperous world for everyone.
I completely agree.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the key takeaway is this Langroid is more than just a technology. It's a glimpse into a future where humans and AI work together to create a better world.
Well said, and it's a future that we can all help to shape. So to all of you listening out there, I encourage you to explore the possibilities of Langroid experiment innovate, and join the conversation about how we build a future where AI truly empowers humanity.